Commission resumes. During the adjournment, which took a bit longer than I thought, we worked out the time allocations in respect of the cross-examination of this witness, and Ms. Pillay has got all the details and she will communicate them to us now.
Siyasalungiselela amaxesha amagqwetha azawathatha ngelixesha saphumile yiyo le nto sibuye emva kwexesha. Ms. Pillay unazo iinkcukacha zalo maxesha.
Thank you, Chair. NUM have been allocated 2 hours, and all of the parties have all the topics granted. Lonman 1 hour, Beloy half an hour, Monene half an hour, LRC half a day, the family is half a day, AMCO 2.5 hours, and injured and arrested 3 days.
Baluleke amaxesha abekwe ngaloo ndlela sisiki.
Yes, I understand that people got what they applied for. The witness, would you please remind him he's still under oath?
The witness is still under oath.
Before Mr. Badender continues with his cross-examination, Ms. Hemraj would like to ask a few questions.
Mr. X, on the 23rd of January 2013, you withdrew the charge and you were left at the side of the road. That was the day that you told a security person from Lonman what had happened at the mountain.
Galamini ke nge-23 zika January ngela xesha ugqiba ucima ityala eli awushiwe pha endleleni yiyo le mini uxelele i-security yakwa Lonman bakwenzeke ntoni pha entabeni into bezisenzeke entabeni. That is correct.
Ndamcela ngokusuba wanithatha wathi ngomso ndimlinde eShaft ndingayi emgodini ndimlinde ndamlinda wanithatha wanisepha emapoliseni.
But I only told him the next day. He said I should wait for him the next day, and he took me from the shaft to the police.
And did he or anyone else at Lonman write down all these things you told them?
Ngoku ezinto obumxelela zona uzibhalile okanye ukhona omnye umuntu waseLonman ebezibhala zonke ezinto umxelela zona?
Izange azibhale tata uba wayewandithatha ngela wanisale ephukile.
No, he did not write down what I was saying. He merely took me to Phokeng.
And when you were at Phokeng police station, when you told the police what had happened, you implicated yourself in some very serious offences.
Xa upha ke ePhokeng wacela amapolisi bakwenzeke ntoni nawe ubuzibandakanya kwezinto ezimbi eziserious ezenzekileyo andithi nawe Yes.
Were you placed under arrest for anything?
What kwathiwa ke wabanjwa kwakhona into abakubambela yona xa uzifaka nawe ezinto ezingathi ngizingamatyala ozithetha.
Zange ndivalelwe tata bandaya ndabe sendibhalisa zonke ezinto kodwa zange ndivalelwe ejele.
No, it never came to that point where I was detained. I told them whatever I told them, but I was never locked up.
Now you've made a series of warning statements.
Kwabhaliswa mhlambi i-statement zomuntu obanjwa yazi lento kuthiwa i-warning statement xa ubanjwa kuthiwa ikhonto ufuna uyithetha ubhaliswe ezo statement.
Zabhaliswa tata bandanyathelisa izithupa sendaziyathelisa ezafika.
Those statements were made and I put my thumbprint on them.
And when you made these statements, you were warned that you were a suspect in various offences ranging from murder to intimidation.
Bakunantsikile bakuwonisha uba ungumtyholwa ungaba ngumtyholwa kumatyala aserious ngezinto ozithethayo ukuthi zenzekile xa ubhalise ezi statement. Batsho njalo. Yes, they did.
What has happened? Do you know whether you are still to appear in court on these charges?
Ngoku kuzawuthwana kuzakwenzeka ntoni uyayazi uba asakulindile loo matyala usazawuvela enkundleni zamatyala ezo zinto.
No, I don't
have a problem with that. I will appear in court if I have to.
No, the question is, what have you been told about them?
Hayi kodwa ke ndibuza uba uxelelwe na ukuba ungajongana nezo zityholo enkundleni. Yes, I was told.
What were you told? Whether you would be charged in appearing in court or would you not be charged?
Uxelelwe ntoni mayelana namatyala kuthiwe uzawujongana nawo loo matyala ezinkundleni zamatyala okanye kuthiwa hayi awuzutshajwa awuzujongana nawo.
Kakutshiwo uba nditshaja kaloku tata kuthiwa ndizawuya akhona amatyala ndizoya ematyaleni.
They said,
Kangixelele bajongana namatyala.
khange baxelele uba
Khange ndixelele uba akhona amatyala. Kangixelele uba ndizotshajwa ndihamba ndilibanjwa njengoba ndilapha nje.
they told me there are charges, although they did not specifically say I will also be charged, but I'm also a suspect as I'm sitting here.
And all these warning statements you made were prior to your...
Sorry.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, Commissioner. I thought it said you were Ulibanjo, not a suspect.
Mr. Chair, yes, he used the word in Kosa Banjo, which would translate to a prisoner. But I chose the word suspect in this case.
All your warning statements were made prior to your making your first manuscript statement in February of 2013.
Zonke ke ezo statement zokuba ulibanjwa okanye uzawutyholwa zenziwe phambi koba wenze ezi statement zika 2013 osibhalisileyo ezimane zivezwa apha.
Yonke enjalo tata.
Yes, that is correct.
Ask a couple of questions too, if I may, on a similar point, before Mr. Bundlen starts. You laid a complaint on the 10th of January, 2013,
Wenze la matyala ke nge-10 zikaJanuwari ngo-2013 andit
in which you alleged that you'd been intimidated.
apho usithi ke uyoyikiswa kunezoyikiso ezenziwayo.
Ewe tata.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Now, who wrote out the statement that that set out the terms of your complaint?
Ngoku eso statement xa usibhalisa sezo zoyikiso ngubani besibhala phansi besibhalwa ngesandla sikabani?
Sasabhala security esina sandithatha sandisebhetane ndofaka case uba ndayibhalise ku-security sathatha ama-minutes ndahamba sandisa ebhetane efaka
The
case.
security officer who took me to Bethany took down the statements because I made the complaint to him. He wrote down, took the minutes, and then took me to the
So
station.
was the security officer you're talking about, was that a security officer of Lonman?
Security liyaselon me.
Yaselonmini
Yes, security from Lon.
And did he write your initial statement out?
Kuye kobhala istatement sakho sokuqala. Sibhalwe ngesandla. Yes.
So in that statement, you said that these two persons who had threatened you had said to you that you had been with them at the copy during the strike,
Kweso statement ke uthi aba bantu babini bakoyikisile besithi ubunabo pha entabeni ngelixesha le-strike.
and that they were going to kill you because you were aware of their deepest secrets in the AMCU union.
And
That's what they said.
baza kubulala ngoba ke unolwazi ngemfihlo zabo ezinzulu zapha kwi-AMCO.
Ewe tata.
Yes.
So when you conveyed that to the security officer of Lonman, that then meant that Lonman knew that you had been on the copy during the strike and that you were allegedly aware of the deepest secrets in the AMCU union. Is that right?
Awuxelela ke i-security le yaseyilonmini loo nto ithetha into yokuba abantu baselonmini bebeyazi uba ubukhona nawe pha entabeni unalo futhi ulwazi lemfihlo zapha entabeni andithi
Babeyazi abanye bengayazi.
some knew others did not.
Yes, but the point is the Lonman person to whom you made to whom you reported the complaint and wrote it out for you, he knew what they had said.
Kodwa ke lo waselonmini ububhalisa kwi-statement ebeyazi ke lo yonke loo nto yena uba ubukhona apha entabeni uyazazi futhi imfihlo zapha entabeni.
When does that? Yeah.
Yes, he knew.
And then 3 days later, on the 13th of January, you withdrew the charge.
Wathi ke emva kweentsuku ezintathu nge-13 zikaJanuwari walicima elo tyala
And
walikhansela ityala.
and the statement that you made was dated the 13th of January.
Statement ke owathi wasenza apho sibhalwe idate ye-13 zikaJanuwari.
Ewe tata.
Yes.
Now, who wrote out that statement?
Kubani ebebhala eso i-statement esange-13 zikaJanuwari xa uyocima ityala?
Police asebhitana ayafika ndibhalisa istatement phayana ndafike ngona ke sacima ityala ba saxe sisuke security ndaye kunestatement esabhaliswa security nabantu bazothi manzocima ityala ikhona into abaqale bayibhalisa banda zange sicime ityala kungabhaliswa baqale kwabhala
The police officers
Aye.
from Petani took down the statement after the withdrawal statement was made, and the charges were not just withdrawn by the withdrawal statement, they were even the people who I complained about made some statement.
Yes, I see. Now, but you withdrew the charge on the 13th of January,
Kodwa ke wena walicima nge-13th kaJanuary ityala.
and when were you first interviewed by members of the police in relation to what you knew about the events involved in the strike?
Waqala nini ke ukuba ube nencoko namapolisa mayelana nezinto zaziyo ngesa-strike?
Sorry, Chair, the withdrawal statement was made on the 21st of January. That's correct.
Were you interviewed then in relation to your first statement on the 21st, or was it a longer period? So you withdrew the charge on the 13th of January.
Ucime ityala nge-13th kaJanuary andithi?
Dad.
On the
You
21st.
withdrew the
Chair.
charge on the 13th. That's the date of this withdrawal statement. You got my copy?
21st.
Oh, sorry, I'm wrong. I misread it. Sorry. Yes, yes. You withdrew it on the 21st.
Hayi,
Okay.
ityala ulicime nge-21 andithi?
Yes.
Dad, that's
Phazamile
that.
xa ndithi nge-13 ulicime nge-21. Yes.
Okay. Yes, I've now got it right. You laid the charge on the 10th. You withdrew it on the 21st.
Ndifumene ngoku walivula ityala nge-10 walicima nge-21 andithi?
And
Yeah,
it
with that.
appears
Yes.
that from the statements we've been given, that the first statement you made relating to what happened on the Kopi was on the 26th of January.
Bonakala ke kwistatement esinazo, istatement sokuqala osenzileyo malana nento ezenzeke phaa entabeni sazinge-26 andithi?
Yeah, with
That's
that.
a warning statement.
I-statement esi-warning statement xa umuntu ebhalisa istatement engathi uzawutshaji andithi?
Yeah, Dad.
So what
Yes.
happened between the 21st and the 26th of January?
Kwenzeke ntoni ke phakathi kwe-21 ne-26 ezi zikaJanuwari kwezo ntsuku intoni ibisenzeka?
Ndandilala apho ndibekwe khona ndimane ndisiya emsebenzini ndimane ndilala ndisiya emsebenzini ndathi ndathatha ndafaka phantsi kwale protection.
I was sleeping at this place where I was kept, taken from this place to work and brought back from work back to this place until I was put under this protection program.
And the place where you were sleeping, I think you told us, was on the London premises. Is that right?
And laa ndawo ke bulala kuyo ubekwe kuyo uthe ibiphaa iyadini yakwalonman.
Bendiphantsi kwelonmile wedad.
Yes, it was under the Lonman premises.
Were London looking after you?
Ugadwe ke ujongwe ngabantu bakwalonman,
London
Yeah,
security.
ii-securities zakwalonman.
They were protecting you, in other words.
Ukhuselwe ngabo.
Ndikhuselwe ngabo.
I was protected by them, yes.
And did they interview you at all before you came into the hands of the police? Did they interview you at all about what had happened? Did you tell them what you knew about the deepest secrets of AMCU? What had happened during this, when you were on the mountain during the strike?
Ngelo xesha ke ukhuselwe ngabo bantu bakwalonman opha ulala phaa bakubuzile imibuzo ngazo ke ezimfihlo zaphaa entabeni nento ezenzekile phakathi kwenu namapolisa.
Ndandibuziwe dad ndabaxelela.
I was asked and I told them.
Thank you.
So while you were made all these statements as a suspect, all these warning statements, you were not in the custody of the South African Police Services.
Kodwa ngeli xesha ubhalisa ezi statement zomtyholo zomuntu ozawujongana namatyala khange ube phantsi kwamapolisa.
Andiva tata ndiphinde.
Ngeli xesha umane usenza ezi statement uxelelwa njengoba utshilo uba nawe ubungumtyholwa njengoba usithi ungumtyholwa nangoku. Khange ube phansi kwamapolisa kodwa ngalo lonke lo xesha.
Yeah, wedad.
Yes, I was never under the police.
Sorry, Mr. Butler, we wanted to sort those matters out before you started.
Thank you, Chair.
Mr. X, you've identified in your evidence in chief a number of the people who participated in the strike by reference to photographs.
uye wakhomba ke wasixelela abantu bebekhona bebandakanyeka kwesi strike uboniswa ifoto ubolatha pha andithi yes
I'd like to show you some more photographs and ask you to help us by identifying some further people.
ndizabonisa ke nezinye ifoto ndicela uba usincede uidentify ukhombe abanye abantu apha kwezi foto.
Could we have on the screen the photograph which is Mr. Chaskelson's prepared? It's called Presentation 1.
Sawujonga ke ifoto ezipha presentation 1.
Now, who is the person in the red shirt who is standing up in front of that group of crouching strikers?
Ubani lamfo unxibe iskipa esibomvu ume pha phambili kula madoda?
Ngumuntu one becamera wanamba ashashutha phaya. Wafaka idimas.
This is camera people from NAM who is shooting there. Is he wearing sunglasses?
Is this an exhibit, Mr. Butler?
No, it's not yet, Chair. I think we'd better make it an exhibit.
Quadruple A.
Quadruple A 29, Chair.
29. How do I describe it?
Photograph of... Oh, it's an extract from the SABC hard drive. It's identified in the right-hand corner. SABC hard drive.
No, it appears to be an ETV
from
shot.
a video.
Oh, no, it's not. I see. That's just the time.
Yes.
So, how do I describe it? Extract.
Extract from SABC hard drive. 15 August.
Yes.
Video 34.mts.
Sorry, 15 August 2012. Video
34.mts.
34.mts.
MTS.
Thank you.
So Chairperson, if we can be assisted, I think the appellation SABC hard drive is meaningless in the context of this commission. Which one? Is it the one that was discovered or the one that was discovered by the evidence leaders later?
Chair, it's the original one, but we'll provide the parties in the commission with the
thank you.
file name.
When we get the file name, we'll then update the description of the exhibit. Let's not dally. Let's not dally on the point for the moment.
Chair, can we just get some interpretation verified? As it came across through the interpreter, he said that that is a photographer from NUM. But I understand that what Mr. X in fact said didn't include that appellation. We just verify.
Well, let's verify. You hear Mr. Tipp's
I
point?
do, Mr. Chair. That is how I understood the witness to be saying. But I can
Ask him to repeat it. Ask him to repeat it.
Kawuphinde xa uphendula ke uthi ngubani lamfo skipe esibomvu lo phambili lamadoda.
Lo tata hamba phambi kwethu lo ngumuntu owabantu becamera lo owena.
This man
Andimazi igama lakhe.
in front of us, is this one of these camera people? I do not know his name.
Know who he worked for?
Uyamazi ba usebenza phi?
Andimazi tata.
No, I don't.
Now, on
That seems to get you off the hook, Mr. Tipp, for the moment, anyway.
Yes. Thank you, Chair.
it was an unintended hook from my part, Chair. An unintended hook from my part, an unconscious hook. On the front row, Mr. X, you'll see there is a man who's wearing a red and white blanket.
Yabona kwapha kula row iphambili kho indoda imbethe ingubo enobubomvu nobumhlophe.
Who is that person?
Ubani lo?
Ngumuntu wamakarapa tata andimazi igama lakhe ndiyamazi ngumuntu wethu esihamba naye lo.
One of us, Makarapa member, I do not know his name.
Then next to him there's a man in what looks like a white coat of some kind, or white overalls. Do you know what his name is?
Ecaleni kwakhe kho indoda enxibe overall emhlophe. Uyamazi lo?
Igama lakhe andilazi yena ngumuntu wamakarapa lo wena qha andilazi igama lakhe.
Also a Makarapa member, I do not know his name.
And then moving along to the right there's a man crouching with white shoes on, black pants, a blue striped jersey, and a sash or something across his shoulder. Can you see him? He's the second last one from the right, or second from the right. Do you know
He's the third, I think.
well, in the front row.
Yeah, all right, front.
In the front row, the second from the right.
Emva kwalo
You know who he is?
weskipa esibomvu omileyo kho indoda engathi ichophile okanye igobile phaa inxibe iteki ngathi iteki ezimhlophe netopo enobublue kho nomgcapha ucross lapha egxalabeni kho nento engathi induku uyambona lo
Ndiyambona tata.
ngowesibini xa usuka phaa esandleni sokunene ayisim ubani lo
Amagama wetata abantu andubazi abana qha ke abantu abana ngabantu bamakarapa abana ndibaziyo abakaveli apha evidiyo kule vidiyo.
Mr. Chair, I do not know the names of these people, although they are Makarapa members. The people whose names I know are not appearing on that video.
Andibazi bonke abantu abaphayana kodwa abanye ndiyabazi.
I don't know everybody there, but I know some.
Right, let's just try one more. The man on the right of the front row,
Khona ke lokho
carrying a blanket and a stick. Do
oseqaleni
you know who he is?
eqaleni kwalo ndigqiba kubuza ngaye wedeke ezimhlophe nanku lo ophethe ingubo phaa emhlophe uyamazi lo seqaleni esandle sakho sokunene
Andazi igama lakhe ndiyamazi umbona.
I know him by sight, I don't know his name.
All right. Thank you. Now, I want... Sorry.
The person that's half visible behind the gentleman doing the videographing, do you know who that is?
Lo ke uyambona lo nofotayo lo weskipa esibomvu
Ndiyambona.
khona umuntu phaa emva kwakhe ngaphaya kwakhe okanye ungaphaya kwakhe uyamazi lo
Ndiyambona lona achophileyo anxibe ijakethi yenam ibheshe yenam lepha ndibona ndiyambona.
I know
Andimazi
that
igama
one's
lakhe ndiyambona
fighting
yena.
with a numb jacket, but I don't know his name.
I'm talking about the gentleman with the pink and white blanket that's next to the gentleman in the blue and grey striped shirt. Do you know that person?
Uyambona lo besithetha ngaye lo weteki ngathi ziteki ezimhlophe bendibuze ngaye
Ewe,
lo se next door ke naye seceleni kwakhe nankuya evelile ngengubo nanku lo
Ndiyambona tata.
lo kubani lo I see the person
Andazi igama lakhe umuntu wamakarapa le group
also a
ngaphambili phethe
Makarapa member, I don't know his name.
makarapa namsi bani makarapa.
They are the members of the Makarapa.
Mr. X, just keep your mind on... keep that person on the front, on the right of the front row, the one with a jersey which is striped on front and carrying a blanket. You see the one I'm talking about?
Yabona ke lo seqaleni phaa esandleni sakho sokunene lo walathwayo
That's
ngamlibali uyambona yabona lento ebomvu ndolatha ngayo
he's got, yes.
nanko phethe ingubo emhlophe
He's being pointed out. He's got blue jeans, a dark jersey with stripes on the front,
nxibe
and he's
ijezi
carrying a blanket.
ensundu nemigca emhlophe apha phambili.
You see him?
Ndiyayibona.
I see that man.
Then can we go to the next photograph in the series?
Masijonge ke enye ifoto
And can it be blown up?
zama uyikhulisa.
Next
Also
slide.
Is this also not an exhibit?
Yeah, can I give it a name in a moment, Chair? Can you look at the man at the left of that photograph?
Jonga ke kule foto le ndoda engapha ngasesandleni sakho sokunxele uyayibona le
That's-
ndoda lemileyo ijonge lamanye
Now that is a man with blue jeans, a dark jersey with stripes on it on the front, and carrying a blanket. He seems to be the one we were just looking at a moment ago.
uyayibona le ndoda siyolathayo ngoku
Liphambili ndiyibona.
le bendibonisa yona kulaa foto sisuka kuyo andithi uyayibona
Ndiyayibona tata.
I see him.
It's the same one as we looked at a moment ago, on
uyayiqonda
the
ke
right-hand side of the front row.
ngumuntu omnye laa ndoda le besiyibona ihleli phaa phansi kulaa foto sisuka kuyo andithi
Hayi.
oh no
Well, let's look at him. He's got
John.
blue jeans.
jonga ezimpahla zinxibileyo lo mfo
He's got a dark jersey with stripes on the front,
nxiba ijini nejezi ensundu enomigca enobumhlophe apha phambili
and he's carrying a beige blanket.
uphethe ingubo
Now that's-
ethanda ukuba brown
That's the same as the one on the previous photograph. Would you like to look at the previous photograph?
yiyo laa ndoda ephaa kulaa foto sisuka kuyo ufuna ufuna sibuyele kula photo.
Masibele kula photo ngiphethe camera.
The photo with the cameraman.
Yes,
Eh,
there he is. on the
masibuyele
right-hand
nansi.
side. Same person.
Nanku. Umuntu omnye lo, uyambona lo?
Leni ngubo ine colors ine colors lengubo lwasemveni kwalomuntu ine colors lengubo lephela.
Eyiphi ingubo leso latha ngokune colors kulomuntu? Eyiphi colors?
Lo okay okay ndayibo ndiyambona.
Oh, now I see. Now I see.
Yeah.
Umuntu omnye.
Yeah, ngumntu.
It's the same person.
And you know him, but you don't know his name.
Uyamazi kodwa ulazi igama lakhe.
Bazi igama lakhe tatayi.
I don't know his name.
Chair, can we just give this, can we go
Now, how do I describe it?
forward again to the second?
This is quadruple A30. And how do I describe it? So I simply call it Mary photograph DSC 3449.
Yes, yes. Colonel Mayor's photograph DSC 3449, and that'll be quadruple A30.
Yeah, I've recorded it accordingly.
Right. Now I want to ask you some things about Mr. Matunjwa's visit to the Kopi.
Sakwenda ubuze ngokundwendwela kaMse Mathunjwa phaya entabeni.
On the evening of the 14th of August.
Phaya late nge-14th ka-August.
Now, if I understand your evidence correctly, you say that Mr. Nzuza said
Xa ngabe ndikuva kakuhle uthi Mr. Nzuza wathi
that he received a call on his cell phone from Mr. Mtunjwa,
ufumene ucingo kwi-cellphone yakhe elivela kuMse Mathunjwa.
who phoned him to ask whether he could come to the mountain.
uMse Mathunjwa efonela uNzuza embuza ukuba ke angeza na kwanye ecela ukuza pha entabeni.
Is that correct?
Kunjalo?
Judge.
That is correct, yes.
And Mr. Nzuza then consulted the committee, and they agreed that he could come.
Mr. Nzuza ke wasethethisana namalunga ekomiti le komiti ke yavuma kuba angaza uMr. Mathunjwa.
Judge.
Yes.
Yes.
And Mr. Nzuza then phoned Mr. Matunjwa to say that he could come.
Wathi ke ngoku Mr. Nzuza wamfonela uMr. Mathunjwa ngoku emxelela uba wangaza.
Judge.
Yes, sir.
Now, the evidence leaders have obtained the cell phone records of Mr. Matunjwa and Mr. Nzuza, and I want to tell you what we found.
Inkokheli ke zobungqina banazo irecord ezibonisa iphone call abazenzileyo oMr. Mathunjwa noMr. Nzuza. Zakuxelela ke into abayifumeneyo kwezo record.
We have examined Mr. Matunjwa's cell phone records for 14 and 15 August.
Sayijonga iphone records kaMr. Mathunjwa pha nge-14 and 15 zika-August.
Chair, Mr. Gotts has kindly prepared a redacted version which obscures part of the phone numbers phoned and received so that privacy and safety are retained, and we'll hand that in due course. But the police have been given the full and unredacted record. This is what Mr. Matunjwa's cell phone record shows, Mr. X.
Record ke zefone kaMr. Mathunjwa zibonisa le nto.
They show, firstly, that on 14 and 15 August,
Zithini? Nge-14 nange-15 zika-August.
Mr. Matunjwa never phoned Mr. Nzuza.
uMr. Mathunjwa zange amfonele uMr. Nzuza.
Can you explain that?
Ngayichaza ke ngokuloo nto.
Siyoba wayesebenzisa ifoni yomunye umuntu.
He could have been using someone else's phone.
Wasebenzisa ifoni ayile yakhe.
Could have been using another phone, not his phone.
You were expecting that question, weren't you?
Ubulindele lo mbuzo lo, wandithi?
Bengawulindelanga tata.
No, I was not.
Okay. And they show that on the 14th, and Mr. Matunjwa's phone shows that on the 14th and the 15th of August, he made and received calls frequently.
I-record ezi zefone kaMr. Mathunjwa zibonisa uba nge-14 nange-15 zika-August wayemane etsalela abantu nabo bamtsalele.
And I will tell you where cell phone records show where he was when he made and received calls on his cell phone.
And siyakwazi nokubona uba ebephi ngeli xesha emane etsalela abantu nabo bamtsalele.
And
Indawo ebekuyo.
let me tell you what they show. I'll start with 5 from 5 p.m. on the 14th.
Zawuqala pha ngo-5 utshona kwelanga nge-14.
They show that the places from which he made calls or at which he received calls were Sandown, that's in Johannesburg,
Zibonisa ke kuba indawo ebekuzo xa esebenzisa ifoni
then Pretoria,
Sundown eJohannesburg.
then Pretoria,
Kwaba khona napha ePitori
until after 7 p.m.
kwade kwapha emva ko-7 ebusuku tshona kwelanga.
Then at another place in northern Gauteng called Klein Sonderhout.
Kwaba khona napha kwenye indawo kubizwa iClean Sonne Road kwalapha eGauteng.
Then at Mpumalanga,
Aya ke ngoku naseMpumalanga.
and a lot of calls to and from Mpumalanga, with the last call for the day being at 20 past 10.
Wenza ke wasebenzisa ifoni kakhulu ezininzi amatyela amaninzi epha eMpumalanga eyogqibela bipha emva ka-10 ebusuku.
So according to his cell phone records, he never received or made any phone calls at Marikana or in the northwest.
Yabona ke ngezo record zibonisa uba akho phone ayifumeneyo kanye ayitsalele umuntu pha ngaseMarikana okanye Marikana eNorthwest.
I'm talking about the 14th of August.
Iselapha kulusuku lwe-14 nje.
14th of August, he made, and after 5 p.m., he made and received no calls in Marikana or Northwest. To the contrary, he was in Pretoria and Johannesburg and in Mpumalanga.
14 zikaAgasti ke emva ka-5 akho phone ayisebenzisileyo ethetha nomuntu eMarikana.
Can you explain that?
Indawo bekuzo kulapho ke eGauteng ePitori naseMpumalanga. Ungayichaza ke loo nto?
Ndichaza ndithi tata uTali Mathunja fama isebenzise enye ifoni yomnye umuntu.
No, I cannot explain it other than to say Mr. Matunjwa could have been using someone else's phone.
No, that's not the point, Mr. Nzuza.
Ayiphenduli loo nto leyo.
Mr. X, the point is that Mr. Matunjwa's phone was making and receiving calls during this whole period, and his phone was not in Marikana or in Northwest. It was in Pretoria and in Johannesburg and in Mpumalanga.
Ipoint nje ukuba umse Mathunjwa usebenzisile ifoni kodwa ekwezo ndawo ndichazele ngazo. Mpumalanga apha eGauteng nasePitori kangabe pakufutshane eMarikana.
Hayi tata cebe banjwa abantu bazomcela uMathunjwa basadlala nje.
No, Mr. Chair, when these people get arrested, they will point out, talk about Mr. Matunjwa. They are still just playing around. The truth has not come forward yet.
That's what I'm trying to find, Mr. X. I'm asking you to explain how it is possible if Mr. Matunjwa was at Marikana on the 14th of August, his phone shows that he was not at Marikana on the 14th of August.
Iyo ke lento ndizama ukuyifumana nami ndifuna undincede inyani ukuba kuba njani ke ngoku uthethe yonke into uthetha ngefoni usebenzisa ifoni kwakhe kodwa engekho kufutshane neMarikana. Wayengekho kuloo ndawo, wayekwezi ndawo ndizibalileyo.
Hayi tata ndithi mna kodwa uMathunjwa wafika phaya kalamini.
Mr. Chair, but I'm saying Mr. Matunjwa did arrive there.
I'm asking you to explain your evidence in the light of the fact that his phone shows that he wasn't there.
Kodwa ndiyeva uba uthi wena wafika kodwa ngawuchazeke le ngxaki ifoni yakhe ibonisa uba ibengekho. Iyachaza ifoni indawo ebekuyo.
Tata ukusuka ePitori ukuya eMarikana. Ndiyaqonda uba akudanga pha eMarikana usuka ePitori. Uba welapha ePitori lapha eJoburg uMathunjwa namoto.
Yes, Mr. Chair, but I think it's not far to travel from Pretoria to Marikana.
So are you saying
Mr. Matunjwa has got a car?
So you're saying he made a call in Pretoria, rushed to Marikana, rushed back again, and then made another call in Pretoria?
So uthi ke wafona esePitori wabaleka ke waya eMarikana, driver futhi wenze enye call futhi esePitori, buyela futhi ePitori aphinda phone.
Inkcukacha efona nayo tata amnolwazi lefoni qha ndithi uMathunjwa wayile entabeni.
Mr. Chair, I don't have knowledge about the workings of this phone, but I know that Mr. Matunjwa was at the mountain.
Chair, just one more thing before we take the lunch adjournment. Can I just inform the commissioners, it's not appropriate to put it to this witness who doesn't know about it, that I would draw the commissioners' attention to the fact that Mr. Matunjwa's phone records show that this phone, the phone in question, received or made phone calls and SMSs at the SABC cell phone base station between 7:06 and 9:41 the next morning. That's the 15th of August. So the phone was at the SABC between 7:06 and 9:41 the following morning, and the Commission knows that Mr. Matunja was interviewed at the SABC that morning at that time. So
siyayazi ke nento yoba ke ngosuku olulandelayo ngentsasa usuku olulandela phaa phakathi kwentsimbi yesixhenxe ethoba umsemathunjwa ebese SABC ethetha nabantu ba interviewer ba
I don't expect the witness to
kodwa
respond to that.
andilendelanga impendulo kuwe ngaloo nto.
Understands it or not, it's something he can digest over the lunch adjournment, which we'll now take and we resume at 1:45.
Ngayicinga ke kodwa loo nto ngeli xesha siselunchini.